Well, hello, good afternoon to you. Welcome to Tottnam Hotspur, USA. I'm DJ Paul. And if you're joining for the first time, this will be my official first live stream. You were invited via my DJ Paul um, post. And so I hope you come over and join me here where I will be discussing a few things, Paratici and not Paratici. Well, Paratici, as the news broke today, will be leaving at the end of the transfer window. And one can question whether or not that is pretty much the best option or the best thing for us to do. But if we leave it this late, and he has put in the work since the summer, then why not allow Paratici to finish up and go? For me, if he has interest, which is lying somewhere else, um, the state of Fiorentina is not one that we would want to readily jump to say, well, that's a destination for a man of Paratici's ability, which we know that's where he would want to be. But I would like to say that's neither here nor there. That's not our immediate problems, and so we can look past that in the interim. So where do we go from here as a club? What are we looking for in terms of a director of football? It was strange that we choose to go a route where we have a joint director of football, and both came out and make statements, I think, well written in terms of showing that they're all on the same page. Frank has come out and said just about the same thing in terms of what their intent were to work together. Well, for me, to be honest with you, is if that was going to make us better, I have no problem with it. As a matter of fact, we as fans don't have much say with how the back room wants to organize itself. And so we find ourselves discussing amongst ourselves pretty much the pre arrange things for us as a club. And so what do we do with the Paratici? That is not where I wanted to start, but I'm just giving that a good old hevo to see, until I get some more people in the chat to join the chat. And like I said, this is pretty much the debut of Tottnam Hotspur USA review, so to speak. And the subject today is actually Pochettino. What are we doing in terms of our alliance to Pochettino with Pochettino? And how awkward or maybe how profitable it is going to be for us at the end of the window should we sack Frank. And even though we're looking at it now with the state that the club is in, should we sack Frank in the middle of the season? How does that work? Are we going to go the same route as we did with Ange? Obviously, Ange won us a trophy and he's off and on his way. And we have Frank. So the clear path to what we're doing as a club is not clear, for lack of a better term. We are not seeing what the back room is doing. We're not seeing the the coordination even in this window where we're suffering not just losses in terms of on the pitch, but we're suffering losses to players, and there seem not an appetite to actually go out there and get players to bring in. We sold Brennan Johnson. We have Mo Kudus going down. Kulashevsky trying to work his way back. Solanke just come back yesterday for the first time, play a couple minutes. And so, with a week of training, then, that will roll into him. And the game coming up on the weekend. And so for that, I would want to take a stab at how do we proceed from here. What is it that we're doing in terms of what the back room is doing? What are we doing in terms of ownership, ENIC as it is? Do we wait and see, or there's a predetermination that Frank is not the guy? And to me, there's really no clear indication as a fan watching what we are witnessing that he's not the man. He hasn't demonstrated fully. I more think that what we're seeing is a result of not having quality players. What we're seeing is more of poor planning. I know what it comes down to. We can't escape it when we talk about the caliber of players that we have. What was expected. We can't be a Champions League team and having 3 to 4 teenagers expected to give us heavy minutes. No other top team in world football is asking their teenagers to play heavy minutes in that respect. So my focus is on whether or not Pochettino would be the right man, or in a case like this, Frank carrying on to continue to be the manager beyond this window and into the summer. There are lots of decisions that need to be made. Lots of decisions to be made. And there is one which I don't subscribe to, is let the manager floats. What does that mean? It means that you're not going to support the manager as far as the back room is concerned. Now, with a talk like that, saying that the back room is already disorganized and they don't have a plan, why would you float a plan from the back room that would state that you are not supporting the manager? Wouldn't that seem like a bigger chaos that you would leave the manager out on his feet because you do not want to invest in incoming players? That begins to sound like a conversation that we're not supposed to be encouraging or having at this time? Why would you not support the manager in this window? Why would you leave the manager out there on his legs with a team that is no good? Where was the planning prior to the window being open? And so there are lots to look at. There are a ton of things to look at when it comes to how the team is run and what we actually think of the team. Why are we still not sign a playmaker? We know that. We knew that when James Madison went down that Jarvis Simmons was going to struggle. Well, we didn't know he was going to struggle this much. We expected him to struggle. But at the same time, were we looking at Bergval, Sarr, and Gray to say that, yes, we had enough behind them and it would have never been a problem with them? Could that have been the thinking? Could the thinking also could have been that Daniel Levy didn't know that he was leaving, but at the same time you wanted, because when you tie that to Daniel Levy, is that he was still the man in charge, and he was carrying out whatever he thought was necessary for him to do at the time. I'm kind of playing around here with some settings as I talk to you. A little distracted. But we allow that to continue into the window. And this is what we ended up with. We ended up with not having the prerequisite to compete at the level in 4 competitions. We are out now of those competitions. So what do we do from there? Where do we go from there as a club? How do we begin to build this team? How are we going to build this team with Thomas Frank? Is Thomas Frank showing enough for us to say, yes, he is the man to take us forward? All those are legitimate questions that needs answer, and the only way you're going to get answers for that, from that, the backroom staff has to start, and the ownership has to start showing their hands, showing their cards, showing where and what direction they're heading. Because so where they go, we will be going with them. They're going to take us with them on whatever ride, bumpy or smooth. And so we need to be able to be predisposed to what's going on. We got into a hissy fit with the Romero tweet. Was he wrong? I don't know. Was he right? I don't know. Do we need some concrete direction? The thing with Romero, and I'm going to take it a different route, if you don't mind. The thing with Romero's tweet is that Romero has been accused of giving more to Argentina than he does to Spurs. I think this is the second time that he actually came out and voiced his opinion. And I see a lot of fans, especially here on YouTube and Facebook. That's where I play around, losing their shirts about it. As a captain, I wish he would be a better leader, show a little bit more in terms of his play on the pitch. But slagging him off for saying what he said, although some people were in total agreement with him, and especially the ones who are in line with what Conte said, hate to use his reference or just bring him up as a former manager. But what Ramirez said, it's nothing that, excuse me, if you're hearing my granddaughter in the background, this is her house. She can do whatever she wants. So I'm not in an enclosed area, and so it's beautiful to hear a kid's voice in the house anyway. And so she's a part of the broadcast until I get my studio back again, trying to be a good dad. So anyway, yeah, so as we look at where we are as a club, as we look at the different pieces, Paratici leaving, coupled with Romero, Van de Ven, you know, who again, a lot of people are not going to agree with me, but when you are a big time signee, even though it took us a long time in the window, two windows, 2 summers ago, to sign him, he came in and he looks the part. Didn't take him long to get up compliments to him. Come with that are something that plagues him, as in Van de Ven, injuries. He's injury prone. And so now we're beginning to see the talent that he has. If you want to go back in time, he has missed 42 games. 42 games are 4 games above a season. So in other words, Ange Postecoglou never had Mickey Van de Ven for a full year, for a full season. He got him for less than a season. Albeit when he plays with a certain level and class. That's what you sign. And so for the fans who are saying that he's too good for Spurs, I don't get it. I may never get it. Because if you sign a player, you want him to give his best to you. He shouldn't give his best and then the first sign of anything, then he's off. He's off to another club because he feels disrespected. We all feel disrespected in this day and age. Everything upsets us. And so if Van de Ven is angling for a contract because he thinks he has given Spurs enough, he has not beginning to give Spurs what they paid for, because he missed 42 games prior. And so I would caution Van de Ven that you have to be healthy first before you start waging the disgruntled part of you I would hasten to say to Van der Ven, he needs to give us a season of healthy football. And if by being healthy, playing well, it is time to jet off to another club, then in my opinion, it has nothing to do with the club. You didn't want to be here. And as soon as you're up and running, then you think you should be off to a bigger club. By all means, go on ahead. I'm 20 minutes in and I have not touched Pochettino as yet. But those are my opinions, right? I know that Kuti gets a lot of flack, but not everyone leads in the way that we want them to. And in a case like this, just like his on field, prone to error sometimes, he definitely made an error in his Twitter fingers. So I'm not going to lose sleep over what Ramirez said. That's between him and the manager. Manager is supposed to be a leader. Pull him in, talk to him. It's over with. If it warrants, public apology, which he was doing in the public apology. So maybe there is no need to apologize because we have heard enough apology already that can fill 2 seasons. So no more apologies, please. Just get on with the business of playing football. That will be appreciated. And so I'm going to go for another 10, 15 minutes. Pochettino is what we are lusting for. We want to get back to the Pochettino days. And what was Pochettino days? Pochettino days was homegrown and cheap. Nothing more, nothing less. Did he build a squad over a period of 6 years that could compete with the best? No, he didn't. We were never at that peak where we were looking down on the competition, if we want to be real. And so we are treating Pochettino's era as though we were looking down on the competition. We were looking down on certain clubs, not in a derogatory way, but in the position that we find ourselves, being top 6 for X amount of years, being in Europe all this time, giving it a good old go for the Premier League. But we never had a squad itself because Pochettino wanted young, academy, and cheap, just the way Ange wanted it. When the tables began to turn after we went to the Champions League finals, which he botched, by the way. That starting Lucas Moura. That is, in my opinion, part of the unforgivable with Pochettino. The belief that as long as we have Kane, we were okay. As long as Harry was on the pitch. And even after we went down 1 and realizing that Kane wasn't moving and grooving or doing anything, he did nothing about it. That is the hardest part to take. of that game. We had the momentum, the underdog, under no pressure, pretty much, but poised to deliver to the club, and he botched it, in my opinion. Some may differ. I'm going to stick to it. But football in itself was not put ahead of ego, of Kane's ego. Andres Townsend talks about Kane's ego, not in a bad way. But Townsend, in one of his interviews, said Kane wanted the ball. He wanted Alan Shearer's record. Kane will never come out and say that. But if someone is speaking from the locker room in a calm tone to tell you, breaking the locker room protocol, to say, you don't actually know Harry Kane. But I also believe in the same thing, that there should be a level of selfishness, which gives you the quiet confidence to go out and do what you do. A certain amount of, arrogance that makes players the cut above the others. And so Harry Kane gives you that. And Pochettino sees that in him. Conte saw that in him. Jose saw that in him. That as long as Harry Kane was on the pitch, there were possibilities. And they never wavered, because they have not wavered. He went to the England team, and he could not play with anyone because he was never taught to play with anyone. Spent an entire career with Spurs. We thought Jensen wasn't good enough to play next to Kane, help him out. Llorente. We thought Vinicius Jr. coming in. Poch in his own, Morata's own take, that if he had gone to Spurs, Pochettino had made it clear that there was no competition for Kane's spot. Kane cannot play with it as a double pivot, which is a shame because he's so good. The minute you put someone next to Kane, he starts drifting back. And so you saw how his game developed, because he never wants to play next to another striker. Kane play as a false 9 or as a number 10. Habitually, he wants to be the man. And when he drifts out that position, he can ghost his way back in there. The selfish part of Kane makes him better, to the detriment of developing someone next to him. When Kane left, it was a crater that was created. And still, no one can ever be Harry Kane. No one will for a long time fill those great shoes. But to the football side of it, you saw what the over-believing in players does for that. And Pochettino believed that in Harry Kane, anything is possible. And that is why Lucas Moura did not start ahead of Harry Kane. And so as you romanticize Pochettino coming back, we can look at Pochettino as a tactical manager. Is Pochettino a tactical manager? I don't see Pochettino as a tactical manager. When he had to be tactical because he had the players, he could not make it at PSG. He had all the players in the world. He had Messi, Neymar, and Mbappe. A manager would die for one of those. He couldn't figure it out. So what makes you think that with less talent, Pochettino coming into Spurs, replacing Frank? Let's just be hypothetical, like I said in my previous video. Let's be hypothetical that he was available. with this lot that we have, there's no pixie dust. He has not shown that command to me, at least when he was at Chelsea and they gave him $500 million worth of players. He said they bought the wrong players and this need to get fixed in the market. He never turned to himself and said, I need to figure this out. To me, those are indictments on a manager. For me, I don't know about you. So we can romance and be sentimental all we want about Pochettino. And then we look at the squad that we have that he's going to come to. What is it, who and what we're going to do in this window, even if we're going to get rid of Frank, that when Pochettino comes in, it would be enough movements in the summer to get the caliber players that he would have want to take us to where we think we are supposed to be. Somebody got to tell me that Pochettino has shown that he can take over a bad team, because he showed that he can build a team. Big difference. The team that he inherited when he came in wasn't all that bad. There was enough youngsters around. Harry Kane, even though Bale was gone, and the money that was used, so Bale didn't bring us back all the players that we needed. Ericsson and Lamela, Saldano, the rest of the quality, and as we move along, selling Bale and Modric didn't give us the returns. But we built something. He did build something. So he has the ability to start low and get high. Couldn't start high with with PSG and Newcastle and Chelsea. Because I still believe that Pochettino is lacking in his tactical development. That's just my belief. I do believe, and here's where it gets tricky. We're not willing to give Frank the time to develop the players that he would have wanted. We don't believe in what Frank is doing. So we are not going to give him the time, irrespective of what's happening now. The club is in flux. And we're not going to give him the time to develop these players. What are we going to do with Pochettino? If we give him this squad, make a few changes here, a few changes there, what is going to be the difference comes the summer? If Pochettino comes to Spurs, does he make us more attractive? Because that's all we are right now. We have the money. We heard that Daniel Levy was the man holding on to the purse string. We heard that it was Daniel Levy who was holding back the selling and the buying and the battering and the negotiations and the loss of players. We heard that story. And that's the reason why we don't get certain players. Well, this is the first window, and we are up to day 11 in the window. And we went out, and it seemed like Daniel Levy's model is still in place. We signed a 19-year-old, unproven, untried inexperienced left back. Maybe one day he's going to become something and somebody. We might have another Emerson Royal in our hand. I remember when Royal signed, and when someone said to me that Royal is almost as good or better than Dani Alves, makes me want to puke. Whoever said that at the time, I have no idea who Dani Alves is. If he's going to compare Royal to Dani Alves. World-class left back, fullback. Dani Alves to Royal. Ooh, turns my head a bit when he said that. But we cannot continue to look back. I personally think from this point of view, from where I'm sitting, from where I'm communicating this to you, I think going to Pochettino in the summer is a step backward. If it is not a step backward, what are the expectations, and can he live up to the expectations? Can the back room provide him with the resources for him to live up to the expectation? Or are we going to continue to lay the blame elsewhere for Pochettino's shortcoming when it does happen? Because he's going to have some. And the reason why he's going to have some is because this entire squad needs a big time turnover. And if we don't get that turnover where we're going to bring in 5 or 6 first team, at least 4 should walk right into the starting lineup. If we are not going to get that in the window, then what is he going to be working with? Are you willing to say, yes, let's give him the following window? Since we're not willing to give that to Frank, but we're sentimentally attached to Pochettino, so we will have no problem doing that. This is one that I will sit in the middle, because the only thing that I knew that I will do ahead of time, I will support him. I've supported him until I realized that he cannot make a tactical change after 75 minutes. And I am not going to be sitting here and putting Poch on a pedestal when football tells me that Pochettino is tactically bankrupt. Just like Ange. Beautiful football. But when you get to where the crux of it, where the manager wins a few games, make decision within the management of a game that is going to turn loss into wins and grab a point here or there based on what the manager is doing. I never saw Pochettino as that manager. I've never seen him done it for the years that he has been here. He can pick a first 11. Great. But when you have a first 11 that everyone agrees with, then the manager has no choice unless he wants to reinvent the wheels. When you have a first 11 that eventually automatically picks itself, and you expect them to be there, you expect them to play if they're not injured. Now, we don't have that with Frank. Are we going to get to the point where we can look at an 11 and we can say, hey, these are who we are penciling in. They're available. They're going to play. They are the caliber which we need to sustain play. And if not, then are we going to wait? Are we going to say, let's give him another year or two? Let's give him the players. Because I know what's going to happen. We're going to bring Pochettino in, When he starts to lose, then we blame the players. We're going to blame the players for not being good enough. We're going to blame the backroom staff for not backing him. It's funny, right, that no one says Ange was never backed. Ange is the most backed manager of all. Jose was backed. Conte was backed. But the minute they start to falter, all of a sudden, they were never backed. No one is saying Ange was never backed. I'm yet to meet someone who was going to say Ange was never backed. And then you ask yourself, why? We're not saying that. Because Ange got the players that he wanted. Ange was seen for who he is. His football is all or nothing. And as bad as he was, he did win something for what it's worth. He took a bad situation and covered himself. And when I look at it a little longer, I say, wow, what if? What if we persevere with a 6 months giveaway Ange's way? Where could we have been? Would Ange have finally figured out that I need to change? Going to Forest did not show that. But Forest was never in a good place. He would have had a continuation of players and a system that he already have in place for the last 2 years. We know injuries are part of it, but you cannot use that as an excuse. His problem was blatant and glaring. And so here we are. Could it have been different if Ange was allowed to continue? I can allow myself to say that now that I'm looking back at the situation. I can't be that hard and not willing to be flexible in my thoughts. Otherwise, might as well I don't do this, because what I'll be selling is how I think and don't give a damn how you feel. I'm here to tell you how I feel, what I want, and how I want it, but not willing to listen to you. And I find out we are doing that as a fan base. I find that we are talking down to the fans who came in behind Ange. I did it. And that is why I realize it, because I find myself in a group that is doing that, who is looking down on Ange, looking down on the fans that he brought. And so we have to get away from that and respect what he did while he was here. It might not be what we want. As a matter of fact, half of it was what we want: good, attacking, attractive football. He was just lacking the rest of it on the defensive end, and that became his downfall. But at the end of the day, after 42 years, we won again in Europe. After 17 years, we won a domestic trophy. After not winning a domestic trophy for 17 years, my mistake. We won a trophy that was out there, a silverware that he promised he was going to deliver. And his fans have all right to remind us that he delivered on his promise. All right to remind us that Ange said he was going to win, regardless of how we got there. If you keep saying that Daniel Levy never bought quality and Ange used that same quality or lack thereof and win you a trophy, don't start breaking it down to the Europa was not strong enough. He won it. Give him credit. And that's where I'm going to leave it. So let me know in the comment. I'm going to jump off here. It was worth the discussion, I think. And so I'm going to bury the Pochettino thing. I am one who would say no to a Pochettino return. Go find another manager in another league, whatever it is that we need to do. If that one doesn't work out, then we move on. But I don't believe that Pochettino is going to come back with the pixie dust to make this lot that's here any better. Caveat that to say, if we're going to go out there, push the boat out, get 6 solid players in, maybe re-sign a player like Palinia, get a ball-playing midfielder, Madison back, Kulashevsky back, then we start to look at, hey, maybe this will work, but we need a little bit more than just Kulashevsky and Madison coming back. We are depleted in talent all over. We need a right back if we're not going to move Paro and Destiny Udogi, so we could get better there. So there's a lot of work to be done on the squad. Maybe, I'm not going to say, it is what it's going to be. So let me put it this way. When we drop out of the championship, when we do, we're going to go through and play the championship. It is going to look like that for next year. We'll be playing once a week. And therefore, any manager that, if Frank remains, or a manager that's coming in, his task of building a squad, a team that represents Tottenham the way we want to play football will be right there for the taking. Now it will be up to the back room to provide those resources. And remember, no matter how much we want to think that players are coming, players going to need or want to come. It is not just affordability. It is not just because we are Spurs. We have to start shop where we can find the Shades and the Kamadas and the Tiagos. That's where we need to shop instead of trying to get the Seskos or Sheshkos, however, and the Gaikares. Because when you are out there for reality check and City and the rest of them are coming, you don't have a chance. So leave that pond alone. You can get there. You can build. And when you build and get there, then they will come. Famous saying, build it and they will come. Buy when you have the time and you have the resources left to you, because now you don't have to go out there and worry about spending $70 million on a player. Maybe you can, but you wouldn't because you need to build. Or if that player in reverse order is going to say, this is where I want to be, now chalk up that $65 million because I want to be at Spurs. We have not seen that. If you see that, it's a dump. Somebody is trying to run away from something. Why would we go out there and sign Savinho? I don't think Savinho will help. I think a player like Njai will help. Because what's going to happen is that Savinho is being disposed. He's going to be excess to requirement because City has Semenyo. So why would we go out and spend $65 million on Semenyo? Is he going to play on the left when we have Kudus? He's inverted as well. But he's going to be excess to requirement. And that is part of our problem. Are we going to sign him when it's easy to sign him? Not because he's injured at City. It doesn't mean that he would have been injured with Spurs. So let's not look at football that way, that he's injured, so therefore X, Y, and Z. He would be in a total different environment. And maybe that injury will never occur. Session is showing up for Fulham just about every game. He never played 2 games for us. So the environment matters. Would I go back in for Savinho? No. If you want to go out there and try to sign a player for $70 million go push your boat out and try to get Conceição. Go try to get Leao. Go try to get Yildiz. Those are ballers that you can go there and get for that kind of money. But are we willing to do that? Or are we going to wait until the big club comes in and say, I want him? Once they come in and they say they want him, we're done. Period. So this might be the time in January when no one has the needs and you have the money. You follow what I'm saying? If we have the need and we really want to push the boat out, instead of going after a player like Savinho, why not let Pep keep him, push the boat out, do all they can, ask Marmoush, approach Marmoush, put the pressure on him and see if he wants to. Maybe his ambition is to stay at City. City ambition may be that I have enough and I don't want him, but I will keep him just in case of injuries. He will serve Spurs much better. So that's what you have to go out there and convince a player like him. The talent, that kind of talent, and you sign that kind of talent now, because come January, someone else up the totem pole might need him. And he's not going to come to Spurs ahead of that other club. So you have to, like they said, first water you get to, you wash. And you use the January window. It's a gambling term, y'all. It's a poker. Yes, so for me, personally, those are the players that you have to target. And see if you can have the cut. Because if you get a Marmoush with a fit Kudus and a Javi Simmons, and maybe Solanke will be okay, we're cooking. Because you can play Marmoush off the left. So we have a chance to do something, but we have to be willing when no one else is looking. Look at Semenyo. Semenyo, when we could have gone after him full bore last year, nobody wanted Semenyo. And so we could have bullied Bournemouth and get Semenyo, but we did not do that. What happened is that Semenyo gets better and the big boy needed his service. We needed his service. Who do you think he was going to join? He's going to go to City. That's exactly what happens. And so we have to be mindful of that. Do we want to be that club who was always finishing second? No, we have to accept it, that this is where we're going to be until we do something to change it. And how do you change that? You have to do critical things like realizing that if a player comes on the market in the summer, I'm not going to get him. So I need to be proactive in the January window. Not a player like Palhinha, not a deal like Tell, not a deal that it's easy to in terms of a loan to buy. You want that kind of loan to buy for a player like Marmoush, where you see him coming and you know the talent is there and you don't hesitate. Now we're hesitating with Palhinha. We know what Palhinha brings. But I wouldn't say run out and sign Palhinha, because my first choice, in my opinion, would have been João Gomez, Ruben Neves, or even Conor Gallagher. So that money can be spent and they're going to cost you just about the same. For all of those players, you can get Conor Gallagher for somewhere around 35, Gomez 40-something with his clause. Just going to take some pulling. And Wolves is in a bad state. I know Jared Bowen is not going to leave West Ham, but Jared Bowen is the kind of player you go out there and you try to get. Because Jared Bowen is all about football. Paquetá, you try and get him. You don't have to keep Paquetá. But Paquetá is here, and so you can use his skill for now if you're not going to go out and get a Conor Gallagher. That's how we have to operate. Who can help us in the immediate, and then we look to step up on that comes the summer, because we're always going to be in a different bracket. Let's not fool ourselves here. Let's not kid ourselves that we can compete with Arsenal and Manchester, all the Manchesters and Liverpool. Let's not kid ourselves about that. There's no shame in knowing where you fall in the line of attractiveness to players. There's no shame in that. What we're trying to do is that we're trying to bury our heads in the sand and said, we're a big club, we're better than that, and we're going to go out and waste our time with players that are not going to end up coming to the club. You can't chase your tail year after year after year. It has to stop. So who is going to put that way of doing business to an end? Daniel Levy is not here anymore, so we can't blame Daniel Levy. A couple more minutes and I'm done. So we have to be able, like I said, to be proactive. Is Pochettino going to get a chance when the rough time comes? Are we going to be willing to turn this squad over, getting rid of 10 players in the window to bring 6 in, and a few from the academy to sprinkle among them? Are we willing to do that? Are we willing to make the hard deal? I don't know. And so to romance and fantasize and be sentimental about Pochettino does not solve our problem. Our problem starts in the back room, and therefore, if they're going to make a bad decision because they want to be sentimental to bring Pochettino in, and they're not going to give him the players, we will be 10 steps behind. We would not have improved if we don't invest in everything that we're supposed to be doing. We have to invest in our thoughts and organization in the back room. If it was easy, that $100 million that they put in the purse, 150, and we went out and signed a player for 14 or 15 million pounds or euros. We sold a player for 33, so the 100 has not been touched. Brennan Johnson's sale services that. So what are we doing at day 11? So when we want to think that Pochettino is going to come in and everything is going to change, what is being laid out? It's 120 days since the window closed, now leading into the 1st of January. What was the plan? Are we going to have the same behavior, even though Daniel Levy, who we blamed ferociously as being the one who was holding back the club? Now I see online it's Enoch out. Until Enoch is gone. I heard before it was until Daniel Levy is gone. Now that Daniel Levy is gone, it's Frank and Enoch. So we're always looking to blame someone. Pardon me. That's the going narrative now online. It's all Enoch. It's all Vinay. And it's all Frank. Yeah. Bring Pochettino back, and everything with his pixie dust is going to be okay. It's not going to be okay if we continue to go down the route of blaming everyone without a plan. We as fans are becoming gullible to just about everything. Every mover and shaker. We are complaining about Paratici. Why? He's a nomad. Paratici wants to go, let him go. Why would you want to hold on to Paratici? It's business. Remember this, and I say it all the time. The only permanence to the club is us as fans. So if Paratici wants to go, just let him go. Go find somebody else to do the job. I wish, though, it was Johan Lange who was leaving and take Rob McKenzie with him. That's part of my regret, because I don't know what both of them are doing. And there it is, folks. A little rant Sunday afternoon as we look forward to the week. We're going to have a full week of training. Everybody should be back by then from the Afghan Cup of Nations. I think Sarr is still out there with Senegal. Bissouma should be coming back. And I'm going to have a conversation specifically about Bissouma in the next broadcast. So peace. I'm DJ Paul, and I am out of here for Tottnam Hotspur, USA, on the Rude Boy Sound. Like, share, and subscribe. I will certainly appreciate that. Peace, and I am out of here. And come on. You Spurs.